Last month's edition of Federal Apprentice was just as intense as any other. 3 weeks ago, the world was poised at the brink of destruction because Saudi Arabia and Iran were going to go to war. Our climate was about to fail, the world was going to end because we might be going into a recession, the border was still a war zone, and Democrats were busy taking shots at each other during the debates. But the whole panic news cycle stopped immediately when a whistleblower came forward to say that Trump may actually have been taking, or at least requesting, foreign aid to win an election. And while we all wait with bated breath for the House of Representatives to do exactly what we all know they're going to do, an aspect of this story seems to still be hotly debated. And no matter what side of the debate you fall on, this entire country should be very worried. On Sunday, on Face the Nation, Senator Lindsey Graham came out to reveal that there was a rule change concerning whistleblowers and the information that they provided.
I never said the Mueller witch hunt, the Mueller investigation was a witch hunt. I introduced legislation to protect Mueller. This seems to me like a political setup. It's all hearsay. You can't get a parking ticket conviction based on hearsay. The whistleblower didn't hear the phone call.
Right.
Who told the
Which he says.
whistleblower about the phone call and everything else?
He says
Donald
multiple
Trump
White House
is
officials
still
were
an
discussing
American.
it.
Every American deserves to confront their accusers. I want to know who told the whistleblower about the phone call. I want to know why they changed the rules about whistleblowers. Not the hearsay rule was changed just a short period of time before the complaint was filed. The complaint sounds like a legal document. Who helped him? Who helped this guy write it or this girl write it? We're not going to try the President of the United States based on hearsay. Every American has a right to confront their accuser. I can't believe we're talking about impeaching the president based on an accusation based on hearsay. Who is this whistleblower? What bias do they have? Why did they pick this whistleblower to tell a hearsay story? The transcript does not match the complaint. What's going on here? Why did they change the rules about a whistleblower? You can use hearsay when you could not, just weeks before the complaint. So I think this thing stinks.
After Senator Graham's appearance, Trump followed up on Twitter, less tactfully, asking the same questions. In all caps, the president writes, "Who changed the long-standing whistleblower rules just before submittal of the fake whistleblower report, Drain the Swamp?" And of course, Trump and Graham weren't the only ones demanding action. Mega Twitter was awash with people screaming about the conspiracy against their dear president, and even the missing link media had some things to say about this. On Monday's show, Daily Wire's Michael Knowles talked about this same allegation. Now, I've never been one to just take a news story as is from either side, so I instantly went to Google to try and get to the bottom of all of this, and the first thing that I found was a unanimous voice of the mainstream media screeching the fact that this was an outright lie. Multiple fact-checkers ranged the Donald's tweet from false to pants on fire, and almost every news story had a post expressing the same thing in many more words. Honestly, if these claims are false though, this leads to a much more dystopian future, but I'll touch on that in just a minute. After doing some searching, I found an article by the Gateway Pundit. In this article, writer Jim Hoft laid the allegation that the Intelligence Community Inspector General had changed the rules surrounding whistleblowers. According to the article, the new rules allow for second or third-hand knowledge to be brought forward, and these allegations appear to stem from a change in the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act Form 401 from its latest revision in May of 2018 to the newest revision released this past August. In this older form, we see a distinguishing area in which the whistleblower reveals if he or she knows firsthand or if it came secondhand. There's a space to explain the source, presumably to allow the Inspector General to issue a subpoena to further investigate the claim. The revised form has eliminated the box to explain an outside source, and admittedly to this commenter, the language is a lot more vague surrounding the second-hand knowledge. Now, the mainstream media has spent a lot of time trying to debunk the idea that these rules have changed, and in lawyer speak they really haven't. But with the timeline, and given the fact that this whistleblower came forward mere weeks after the new revision, seems to be more than a coincidence. It's not exactly a stretch to suggest that this was an elaborate plan, but unfortunately, the bad reputation that comes with the tinfoil community also makes it easy to dismiss it as deranged conservative rambling. I promised a bit ago that we would talk about why it's eerie if hearsay has always been acceptable, and consider this. Right now, given the admitted secondhand knowledge of the whistleblower, the House is pursuing an indictment equivalency based on a testimony that most judges in this country would just laugh out of court. But a successful indictment or even removal sets a precedent that this is an acceptable level of evidence. Pelosi says that no one is above the law, and once the Donald is removed, there is the issue of 63 million people who voted to put him in office, and possibly even more people out there that would fight to keep him in said office. It is highly conspiratorial to think that the majority of the citizens and the majority of Trump voters would be put into a gulag for punishment for what they had done for putting him into office. In fact, most of the citizenry would be left alone. But commenters on both mainstream networks and alternative media networks would be the perfect targets to make an example out of in the new system, and along with that we would have the very hated billionaire class that would also make a good series of examples to try and keep the citizens in line. After looking into these documents, the incendiary language of the Gateway Pundit may have been excessive, but it's the Gateway Pundit and they have a certain audience that pays money to see this kind of language. But the timeline and convenience of the events leads me to also determine that Snopes' instant dismissal as falsehood may have also been misplaced. Regardless, we are treading into dangerous territory for the Fourth and Fifth Amendments. And lastly, if we're talking about whistleblowing and third-hand knowledge, I heard from Cole, who heard it from Dylan, who heard it from Ashley, who heard it from Brenda, who heard it from Kim, who heard it from Phil, that Nancy Pelosi is selling trade secrets to the Chinese. Get me that new whistleblower form, I think I've got a case. What do you think about the whistleblower change, and what do you think about the President's and Senator Graham's commentaries on it? I always welcome a thoughtful and positive discussion in the comment section below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at EdsBlog Twitter, with a 1 in place of the I. Thanks as always for listening to this show and supporting this channel. And remember, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Take care.
You're always